Did UNLV make a mistake by staying in the Mountain West? What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff, and on today's show, the college football playoff made a change, and no one knew about it. The Mountain West is already looking like it might be in some trouble, and the Raiders coaching search is going to take forever. And Ed Graney joins the show as we get into the Raiders coaching search and whatever is going wrong with UNLV basketball. There are a few college football stories that I want to get to. We're going to start, though, with the Mountain West and the lack of television money that might be coming to the Mountain West. So, the Mountain West is losing a bunch of its teams, losing most of its good teams as they join the Pac-12 next season. The Mountain West is going to have to sign a new television deal for the upcoming football season and the basketball season and any other sports. They're going to end up on television. What that television deal looks like is going to go a long way into deciding which of these conferences is going to be any good, at least financially, into the future. Boise State, San Diego State, two of the biggest draws, two of the biggest brands in the Mountain West are gone. The Mountain West has not announced its new television deal for the upcoming season, but we do now have a hint. So Nevada Sportsnet has a story up on this, and the University of Wyoming is asking the state of Wyoming for an additional $1 million in funding for, quote, estimated decreases as a result of changes in conference membership. So currently the Mountain West television deal pays each school about $3.5 million. This is an oversimplification. This is not what all of this means, but if you want to do the easy math, they're getting $3.5 million per school. Wyoming's asking for additional $1 million. Are they only going to get $2.5 million per school on the next television deal? That would be significantly worse than the previous one, right? Especially because these television deals normally go up in value. So had the Mountain West stayed together as is, that $3.5 million probably would have been $5 or $6 million, something like that in the future, but it might only be $2.5 million. Now, again, that's an oversimplification. There's a chance Wyoming was expecting it to be $5 million, and it's only going to be $4 million, and they're asking for $1 million to cover that $5. So again, I'm oversimplifying there, but $2.5 million might be the number we are looking at. And if that's the case, it's brutal for the Mountain West. It's also terrible for UNLV, who chose not to go to the Pac-12. To be fair, we do not know how much money the Pac-12 is going to be paying its schools through its television deal. They've announced their television partners, but the Pac-12 did not announce how much money each of those schools are getting, meaning they're probably not getting a lot of money either. But Bob Thompson, who used to work for Fox Sports, he tweeted out his estimations, his guess was $7 to $10 million per school. So if we take the low ends and do, again, some very simple math here, UNLV gets $2.5 million in the new Mountain West television deal each year. The Pac-12, let's just say 7.5 to make it easier, gets $7.5 million per school. That is a $5 million per year difference. And if you remember, UNLV, a big reason why they chose not to join the Pac-12 is because the Mountain West promised to pay UNLV and Air Force more money than the rest of the schools in the Mountain West. That money's supposed to come from the poaching fees from the Pac-12 and the exit fees from the schools that are leaving to go to the Pac-12s. That's all in court, and we'll see how much they get paid of it. But the rough number is that UNLV was going to get $20 million. So it would take 4 years for that $20 million to have been made up by the Pac-12's television deal. Again, oversimplification on the numbers, but probably in that ballpark. If it's only going to take 4 years, then it is a horrendous decision by UNLV to stay in the Mountain West for $20 million. Because all you need to do is make it to year 5, and you're now making more money than you would have been making in the Mountain West. None of this is the guaranteed numbers and all of that. It could end up being better for the Mountain West. Maybe their television deal is much closer to the Pac-12's. It could also be worse. They could also be more than $5 million apart from the Mountain West. But if this is what it plays out, if the Pac-12 schools are going to get $5 million more per year than the Mountain West schools, then UNLV's choice to try to get the $20 million payday is going to look very, very dumb. And are they even going to get that $20 million? Because again, it's supposed to be coming from those poaching and exit fees. That's in court. It's very complicated. It's all spelled out of how much UNLV gets depending on how much of those poaching and exit fees actually get paid. So it could end up being less than $20 million depending on how that case plays out. From a pure money standpoint, it certainly looks like UNLV made the wrong choice to stay in the Mountain West. Now, I know their goal and focus is to join a power conference. And one of the details that they were super proud of was that their deal with the Mountain West says they can leave for a power conference without paying an exit fee. They're really excited about that. I don't think that's coming for UNLV. I think the power conferences are too big already, and they're not going to be looking to add teams. I think if you were going to be in a power conference, you would already be in a power conference. Memphis tried to buy their way in to a power conference and could not do it. Why would they take UNLV without buying their way in? So I think this is probably going to look like a bad deal for UNLV. Financially, make the college football playoff because you win the Mountain West and you went 12-0 or 13-0 or something like that. And maybe it's not the worst deal because it helps your football program. Probably not going to help your basketball program because they're not any good and the conference is going to be even worse next year. But at least financially, it doesn't look like it's going to be a good deal. Now, we also had this week a change to the college football playoff that nobody knew about. So according to The Athletic, the college football playoff this upcoming season, staying at 12 teams, but they made a slight change in that the group of 6 team that's guaranteed a spot, it does not have to be a conference champion. Instead, it's just going to go to the highest ranked group of 6 team. Previously, it had been the highest ranked group of 6 conference champion, right? They were guaranteed a spot. But now it's just the highest ranked group of 6 team. It is unlikely to actually make a difference, right? The chances of there being a really highly ranked group of 6 team that doesn't win their conference is pretty slim, right? You're going to have some team go 12-0 or 11-1. It's almost going to certainly have to be like Boise State. And then they lose their conference you got to be ranked 13th and then lose your conference championship game, fall back to 19th, and no other group of 6 team is, pushing into the top 20. That's the scenario that would have to happen. It's not likely, but it is possible. I don't think it matters too much, but the problem here is twofold. One, you're giving the selection committee more power that they don't need to have, right? Because, again, you imagine the scenario where, Boise State goes 11-1, they go to the Pac-12 championship game, and they lose to 9-3 Washington State. UNLV's sitting over here at 10-2 and goes and wins the Mountain West. The committee could then still just put Boise State in over UNLV because they like them better, right? And I think that's stupid. The committee should have less power in this scenario, not more. But the second part that's problematic, and this is the big part here. Chris Vanini, who reported this for The Athletic, Chris Vanini reported that group of 6 leaders didn't know about this change. How is that possible? How does a conference commissioner of the Mountain West or the Pac-12 or the American or an athletic director for any of these schools, how do they not know that the college football playoff format has changed the criteria for how your school or schools can get into the tournament? How was that a new detail that either commissioners or athletic directors just found out about this week? I don't understand that. How is it possible that they did not read the rules, read the criteria, right? And who chose it? I mean, we know the SEC and the Big Ten, but did they not tell anybody from a group of 6 conference? Did they just make this change and say, we don't care about the Sun Belt. We're not even going to tell them. I guess that's plausible. But it just seems insane that this has all been approved and people in the group of 6 conferences didn't know that how they get into the tournament, how they get into the playoff, that criteria has completely changed. Like, what if Chris Vanini hadn't reported this? Like, what if he didn't find out about it and nobody in the media found out about it until some point during the season next year? And we're like, and the selection committee's like, yeah, well, they don't have to win their conference championship because we can put in whatever team we want from the group of 6. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? And that's how we find out. It's just like, I don't know. It seems insane that nobody would know about this who actually made the rules. So good job by the group of 6. Does not inspire any confidence that anybody's going to do anything well going forward. Now, one last thing I wanted to do on some college football. So I've got a Patreon, Technically Correct, with Tyler Bischoff, patreon.com, Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. Go find me there. You can support me there. I would really appreciate if you subscribe and support me. We've got bonus content up there on a regular basis. You can read some stuff I write. I'm going to have some extra videos that are up there as well. For people that are subscribed to my highest level of Patreon, you get to give me a topic every month that I will then talk about. Right? We did Arnold's a little bit earlier where he wanted me to talk about the Lady Rebels before their big game against San Diego State, which they lost. Sorry, Arnold. But Mike has asked for me to do a rundown of the Mountain West teams and the transfer portal. So I'm going to use 24/7 Sports as sort of my basis for this. And a keynote here, 24/7 does recruiting rankings, right? 5 stars and 4 stars and all of that. They do high school recruiting, and then they do a separate ranking for transfers, right? So a guy who was a 5-star recruit, Jackson Arnold, the quarterback coming to UNLV, just because he was a 5-star in high school, now he's a 3-star transfer recruit. So there's differences in how their stars are handed out. But looking at 24/7, every Mountain West school has between 14 and 19 players coming in the transfer portal. Nobody has a huge class, and nobody's like doing nothing except for Air Force. They have 0. They don't kind of count in this discussion. They've got 0. But everybody else has between 14 and 19. The best transfer class in the Mountain West is UNLV. They've got 19 players coming in. 11 of those players are 3-star transfers. UNLV has the most transfers, or tied for the most, and they have the highest average player rating. They've got the most 3 stars coming in. Fun fact, not a single group of 6 program has a 4-star transfer coming in. Not one of them. Maybe 24/7, if you commit to a group of 6, they bump you down if you were going to be a 4-star. But not a single 4-star transfer has committed to a group of 6 school yet. So getting a 3-star is about as good as you can do. So UNLV is the top of the Mountain West. By the way, across all of the group of 6, UNLV has the 10th best transfer class. Most of the programs ahead of UNLV have a ton of transfers coming in because they lost their head coach. So like UNLV has 19. Some of these programs have 25, have 30. UConn has 50 incoming players in the portal. So UConn's transfer class is rated higher than UNLV's, but that's more about quantity than quality. UNLV's average player is better than UConn's, but they're 10th across the transfer portal. Now, Mike, shout out to Mike, but Mike is a Nevada fan and a Tulane fan. I'm a big fan of Mike because I don't really know why he listens to me, but he has for years, and I appreciate Mike. Unfortunately for Mike, Nevada ranks last in the Mountain West in their transfer class. Again, not counting Air Force because they have 0. But Nevada ranks last. 17 transfers coming in, but only 3 of them are 3 stars. So 14 unranked transfers by 24/7. And the interesting part to me is that they have landed 3 incoming transfers from power conferences. So only 3 guys are sort of taking that step down to Nevada. They're actually getting more players that are going from the FCS level and up to Nevada than they are from the FBS level, from the power conference level and down to Nevada. I don't know that there's been any like proven data to show what's better, but I feel like getting the power conference guys to come down is the better option, and Nevada's not able to do that. Also bad news for you, Mike. Tulane is ranked 11th in the American. 20 commits and only 8 of them are ranked by 24/7. So not looking great for Tulane or Nevada. I'm sorry, Mike. Now, across the UNLV, you've got the top at UNLV and the bottom is Nevada. San Jose State and Hawaii have the second and third best transfer classes in the Mountain West. They have both landed 10 transfers that are 3 stars. So they have done a pretty good job. The middle tier is Wyoming, UTEP, new member, and Northern Illinois, new member. They all have 7 to 9 transfers coming in that are at that 3-star rating. And then the bottom 2 are New Mexico and Nevada. Right now, that's sort of your tiers of Mountain West transfer teams. Now, important to note here, you get players to come help your team out of the transfer portal. You also still get high school recruits, right? And if you combine 24/7's high school recruiting rankings with their transfer portal rankings, this is the ranking of Mountain West schools for just all incoming players. Best incoming class is UNLV. They have the best recruiting class and the best transfer class. They are number 1. Number 2 is Northern Illinois. And number 3 is UTEP, which I find fascinating because are they going to be regular contenders in the Mountain West? Right? I don't think UTEP will be. Northern Illinois, maybe. That's been a pretty solid group of 6 program for a while in the MAC. So maybe, but they're currently second and third in terms of players they are bringing in. 4th is New Mexico. They don't have a great transfer class, but their recruiting class is pretty good. 5th is Nevada. Similar situation. Don't have a great transfer class, but their recruiting class is better than some other teams. Then you go Wyoming, Hawaii, San Jose State, and Air Force coming up last. So that is the ranking of teams in the Mountain West that combining transfer and high school recruiting, which, if you're UNLV, sounds great because you were better than all of these schools except maybe New Mexico last year, and you're bringing in better talent than they are. UNLV did lose some talent. They lost their quarterback, right? So you probably lost more talent than most of these schools as well, but you're bringing in more talent. So that is very good news for UNLV. I think the real interesting part of the Mountain West is, if I asked you right now, who in this conference is going to dominate it the way that like Boise State did in the Mountain West? Which doesn't mean you win it every year, but you're kind of at the top every single year and you win it a lot of the times. UNLV is the most likely, I think, but it feels to me like a conference that's going to have kind of big swings where it'll be like, hey, 1 year or 2 years in a row, like Hawaii and San Jose State are at the top of the league. And then the next couple of years, it's UNLV and Northern Illinois. It doesn't feel like there's a program that you feel confident in saying, yep, they're going to be the class of the Mountain West. UNLV should start off there and in theory could stay there, but it just seems like this is going to be a conference where, like, is San Jose State, New Mexico, UTEP, Northern Illinois, is there a big difference between those programs? Probably not. So that is for you, Mike, and for everybody else. Again, if you want to support me, if you want to subscribe for bonus content, if you want to make me talk about something, check out my Patreon. It's Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. Find me on Patreon and subscribe.
Battle Blast, been serving Las Vegas since June 2012 with the very best in family entertainment. We are proud to provide the best facility, equipment, and service possible. Strap on laser tag vests, step into the 5,600 square foot 2-story arena designed to look like a worn, torn city street. An exciting atmosphere filled with exhilarating music, blacklight effects, and fog. Battle Blast also features a viewing deck for those not playing can watch players vest up and catch a view of the action going on in the arena. In between games, check out our arcade and prize center and enjoy tasty treats from our snack bar. Birthday parties, sports teams, group outings, and corporate events. Battle Blast does it all. We want to make your Battle Blast experience so good you'll want to return again and again. Battle Blast is the ultimate destination for family fun and friendly competition.
Technically Correct is brought to you by Battle Blast Las Vegas, the best laser tag in Vegas. Battle Blast is the perfect spot for your next event, whether it be a kid's birthday party, a corporate event, kid finishes a Little League season, you need to have an end-of-season party. Battle Blast is the place to go. Do it for your own birthday party. Get your friends and family together and go see who is best at laser tag at Battle Blast Las Vegas. Plus, they've got arcades, prizes, more than just laser tag. It's Battle Blast Las Vegas, located at 8125 West Sahara Avenue, your next stop for fun in Las Vegas. The Golden Knights are back in action and back at home against the Dallas Stars. one game in the middle of the regular season. Doesn't mean a whole lot. But I am very interested in seeing this game as they take on Dallas because it's one of the teams in the Central Division that's better than the Golden Knights. And they have not played Dallas yet this season. We're more than halfway through, and they play them 3 times this year. Haven't played them yet. They also haven't played Vancouver, who's in their division. So they play Dallas tonight, and then they play at Dallas 2 more times before the season ends. Couple of things I'm interested in seeing. I'm assuming Adin Hill is playing. Does he look any good? Right? It's probably the biggest thing to watch for the Golden Knights the rest of the way is how does Adin Hill look? Does he look like a competent goalie that you can trust in the playoffs? Or are the Golden Knights going to have to do something else, whether it's Akira Schmid or find a goalie outside the organization or hope that Carter Hart comes back and is actually good because he wasn't good before his injury either. Also, is Mitch Marner at center? I would assume he was because he was very, very good at center last game. And does it mean Bruce Cassidy gives him all offensive zone starts again, like they did in the last game? So those are a couple things I'm interested to see, but also just how do they look against Dallas, Central Division team? The funny part is like, in theory, Dallas is irrelevant because the Golden Knights are probably going to be in the top 3 in the Pacific. Dallas is not going to be a wild card team, meaning the only way they play Dallas would be in the conference final. And that would mean Dallas would have to beat Colorado, which seems unlikely. So it's a very good team. Should be a fun matchup, but it might not matter at all because they can't meet in the playoffs unless Dallas pulls off a big upset or one of them just completely flames out and ends up as a wild card team. The Raiders will interview Klint Kubiak on Saturday. That's according to Vinny Bonsignore. That's going to be the second interview the Raiders have had with Klint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator. Apparently, the Cardinals are also going to get a second interview with Klint Kubiak. So the Raiders are not the only one doing this. There are 2 jobs open, and both of them are going to interview Klint Kubiak this weekend, I guess. There's this, I don't know, I've seen it on Twitter quite a few times now, that like Kubiak doesn't want to be distracted before the Super Bowl, or like, oh, Kubiak doesn't want people to know that he's a candidate and that he might be interviewing for these jobs because he doesn't want to seem distracted ahead of the Super Bowl. But like, we all know this happens on a regular basis, and why would you take either of these interviews if you were worried about being distracted or looking like you were distracted? I don't know. It's just this weird narrative that's out there. It's like, they can't say anything about Kubiak because he's going to be distracted. It's like, I don't think anybody cares, right? I mean, I guess Seahawks fans, but like, it's not going to matter. It's not going to make a difference. They're going to lose the Super Bowl because, Klint Kubiak spent a couple hours preparing for his interview. So I don't know. It's just very weird when I see people be like, oh, yeah. Got to keep it quiet. I don't know. Strange narrative that's out there. Also, I thought this was an interesting note from Ian Rappaport yesterday, who was on NFL Network talking about the Raiders job. And he said the Raiders might not be done interviewing candidates, and specifically said young candidates could be a new person that they interview here in the future. And it made me feel like that is plan C, because like Ted Wynn tweeted out what I think is probably happening here. The Raiders want Klint Kubiak. They're waiting on Klint Kubiak, and Davis Webb is their backup option, right? And yesterday on the show, if you missed it, go check it out. I know we had some Apple Podcast problems, but it's there, I promise. But yesterday on the show, I talked about the possibility of the Raiders missing out on all their candidates, right? If Klint Kubiak decides to stay in Seattle as their offensive coordinator, the way Ben Johnson did with Detroit a couple of years ago, then the Raiders don't get Kubiak. And then there's Davis Webb, who could also decide to stay as an offensive coordinator with Denver, or he's apparently going to get interviews with a couple other places. And there's a chance the Raiders miss out on both of these guys after missing out on every other candidate so far because they've taken so long in their process. Thank you to Tom Brady. And it feels like if they bring in another name that they haven't interviewed yet for an interview, that feels like a plan C, right? That feels like hey, we're going to wait on Klint Kubiak. But if he says no, and then Davis Webb says no, or maybe Davis Webb says, I'm not waiting, offer me the job now or I'm staying in Denver, maybe, right? Then what the hell do we do? Well, we need to interview people to have a plan for that. So that's what that feels like to me. And I feel like that kind of says where the Raiders are in their coaching search, and it's something they should be doing. Also, According to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the Steelers are likely hiring Patrick Graham to be their defensive coordinator. Patrick Graham has been the Raiders' defensive coordinator for the last 4 years across 3 different head coaches. The Raiders didn't have good defenses under Patrick Graham, but they also didn't have good defensive players. This team did not spend money on defensive players in free agency, and they did not spend high draft picks on defensive players. Patrick Graham was basically given a, hey, we're not paying attention to your side of the ball. Please make it work. You have Max Crosby. And they had one good-ish defense under Patrick Graham, and that was it. The other 3 years, they were just a bad defense, but I don't think it's actually Patrick Graham's fault. Again, he didn't make them better, but I don't think he's the reason that they've been bad on defense for quite a while. And it does, well, likely, officially means that the Raiders are going to have to hire a new defensive coordinator. Assuming they end up with one of these offensive guys, it'll be an important hire to get a guy to come in and basically lead your defense while your head coach is focused on the offense. We did see another hire. The Browns went and got Todd Monken as their head coach. Monken had been the Raiders offensive coordinator for the last 3 years. He's 59, and this is his first head coaching job in the NFL. He was a head coach at Southern Miss for 3 years. He went 13-25, didn't go very well. I do kind of find it funny that Todd Monken got the job after Harbaugh had been fired, and he, by default, had been fired from that. How do you phrase this the right way? I don't think Todd Monken is like this great hire, but I do actually think it's better than I was expecting from the Browns, given how bad their coaching search went. Like, I feel like Todd Monken's not a bad hire. It's just not a great one, but you were the Browns, and people were saying, no, thank you. I think I'd rather be retired than coach for the Browns. And so to get Todd Monken, I don't think is the worst. However, are they going to be any good? Like, what is that offense? Who's the quarterback of that team? It's probably not going to work out well either way. Also, the A's, maybe Las Vegas A's in the future. They're taking their top prospect to spring training. Leo DeVries is the 19-year-old shortstop that they got in the trade with the Padres for Mason Miller. He's ranked, I think MLB just put out, he's the number 4 prospect in all of baseball. He's only 19, so it's like very, very unlikely that he makes the major league roster, right? But he's going to spring training, so we'll see how long he's there in spring training. Guys will get sent home early, right? That's how they usually cut down the roster. Does he look any good at 19? Do we actually get to see him in any spring training games? Because he's one of the top prospects in baseball and one of the biggest hauls that they got when they traded away Mason Miller. So a little bit of intrigue for at least the future of the A's, and in theory, he will be playing when the team moves to Las Vegas. Last thing, if you didn't take my advice yesterday and watch the Champions League, you missed out. So yesterday was the last day of the group stage. Every team's playing at the same time, 18 games at once. It's incredible. And all of the games were done except one. We had one game go to 98 minutes into the 98th minute of stoppage time. And here's the scenario. Benfica led Real Madrid 3-2. But Benfica was going to be knocked out of the tournament on goal difference. They needed to score another goal to advance on goal difference. It's 3-2. We get past the 90th minute into stoppage time. Real Madrid got 2 red cards in stoppage time. Very impressive. 2 red cards. So Real Madrid finishes this game with 9 guys on the field. We are in the 8th minute of stoppage time. The ref put the board up for 5, so we are way past how long we should be playing. But again, there were 2 red cards, so they got to keep playing a little bit more. We're in the 8th minute. Benfica has a free kick. They send the goalie up because it doesn't matter if they give up a goal. They've got to score. They send the goalie up for this free kick. On the free kick, the goalie scores, and Benfica advances to the knockout round of the Champions League. Final play of the game, final play of the entire group stage of the Champions League was a goalie goal to send Benfica into the knockout stage and knock Marseille out. Incredible, and if you missed it, it's just because you hate soccer and you don't want to listen to me. Technically Correct is brought to you by Battle Blast Las Vegas, the best laser tag in Vegas. Host your next birthday party at Battle Blast. You can book the party package and you'll get a private party room, dedicated host, pizza, soda, arcade tokens, and laser tag. And if you do it for your kids and you're like, I really want to play, you can book a game for the adults as well. It's Battle Blast Las Vegas, located at 8125 West Sahara Avenue, your next stop for fun in Las Vegas. He is Ed Graney. You might have heard me and Ed talk to each other quite a lot if you listen to us over on ESPN Las Vegas. Ed, thank you for joining me. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's the press box redo. All we're missing is Danny running the show.
I don't know if we're missing Danny.
Well, we see him enough on Twitter not to miss him.
All right. So I want to start with the Raiders because first off, when are they hiring a coach? When do you think they're hiring a coach?
I think if it's Kubiak, it's obviously after Super Bowl. You can make a agreement with him, but you have to wait till after the Super Bowl to officially announce it. I think they're going to have a second interview with him this week, and I won't be surprised if it's him, and I won't be surprised if it's after the Super Bowl. These people they've talked to are suddenly getting picked off by other people. So they're kind of down to Kubiak and Davis Webb. At least those have been reported, unless there's a surprise guy we don't know about.
Okay, you know that I'm a hater, and I'm always looking to hate on things. But
there you go.
There were 10 open jobs. There's now 2. And it's the Raiders and the Cardinals. And Klint Kubiak in the Super Bowl, like that timeline makes sense as to why they might have to wait. Is it a bad thing that they're one of the last 2? Like, I guess, do you think the process is bad because it didn't lead to a good hire last year? Is it fair to think, they might be screwing this up again?
Boy, that's a good question, but I like Klint Kubiak enough to say I think it's going to work out if he's the coach. But if he's not the coach and it's Davis Webb, you're talking about a guy who will be the second youngest coach ever in the history of football next to Sean McVay, who's never been head coach, who I think has only coached 3 years, right? I mean, he was a player like 4 years ago, so he's only coached 3 years. So I'll reserve judgment until I find out who it is. But it's funny because in the past, people criticize him for, it's you made a quick decision. You need more of the process, and now the process has lasted so long that they've lost all these guys that they interviewed to other jobs. It's weird how this has happened. So I don't know. I mean, if it's Kubiak, they're gonna they can make a deal with him. I mean, they can make a deal with him when he comes in this week and not say anything until after the Super Bowl. And if it's him, I think it's a good hire. But if it's not, again, unless there's someone out there we don't know about that hasn't been reported on, and that's pretty tough with, the national guys, the local guys that follow this stuff, I think it would be Davis Webb, and that would be a risk.
Do you think Klint Kubiak might stay in Seattle? Like the idea that he does what Ben Johnson did to the Commanders 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think in everything you read, they're going to do everything they can to keep him there. And I think you hit it on the head. I think does he want to wait through one more cycle of coaching hires and be Ben Johnson and stay one more year after the Super Bowl and then kind of have his pick? Not that I don't know if he had his pick this time because, he was involved with some interviews, but the Raiders seem to be the most, prevalent in his interview process here. But you're right. And I think Ben Johnson is the best example of that, a guy who waited one more year and got the job he wanted.
So, okay, this is my question on that if I'm Klint Kubiak. I don't think there's any way that I go back because, yes, everything was awesome this year. And in theory, if you have another good year, you'll be a top candidate. But it's Sam Darnold. Like, do we really think that it's going to be just great again, that they're going to have the best record in the NFC and have this great offense? It felt like when Ben Johnson did it, it was going back to an offense that was clearly going to be good again. But I don't feel like it's this guarantee that Klint Kubiak goes back and Seattle's offense is just really good again. If he goes back in Seattle, I mean, they're in one of the best divisions in football. It wouldn't take much for them to finish third if the offense goes back and all of a sudden it's the 12th best offense. Do teams really want him again? I have a hard time understanding why he would think it would be worth it to go back unless he just hates the Raiders job, but I don't think he'd be taking a second interview if he hated the Raiders job.
Right. Unless he's not a Fernando Mendoza guy, because that's who he's going to be coaching. Maybe he watched the CFP final and said, I don't know about his arm strength. He can run well, and he had the great run. But I think with a lot of people, I think they're going to take Fernando Mendoza. I just think that's who they're going to take, and that's what they're going to do. But you do talk to people who aren't sold on him, who aren't sold on the arm strength, who aren't sold a lot of things about him. I don't know what Klint Kubiak thinks of him, but you're exactly right. There's no, especially in that division, there's no guarantee that they would come back and be what they are this year and go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like too much of a risk to just say, oh, yeah, we'll be this good again next year and I'll get another head coaching job somewhere else.
Right.
On the Mendoza side, because like when Mike McDaniel was a potential candidate before he kind of became the Chargers offensive coordinator, but was still flirting with head coaching jobs, it was like, oh, what does he think of Mendoza? And maybe that would lead to him taking the Raiders job. But do you think Klint Kubiak has watched any Fernando Mendoza? He's coaching a team that's going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Maybe he watched the final. Maybe he turned that one on. It's that time of night, he probably maybe watched the final. But I don't. If you ask, I don't know if he's really, really serious about the Raiders job, and we don't know how serious he is because, like we said, Seattle's going to do everything they can to save him and keep him there. I'm sure they've told him that money-wise and everything. It's interesting to where if he's that interested, would he have taken a little time to throw on a tape? I don't know.
For some reason, the interview just cut off there. It actually didn't cut off. It just cut Ed off. So my recording software was tired of hearing Ed talk. It's actually funny video because the rest of that interview with Ed, the video is just me nodding along in silence because for some reason it stopped recording Ed. I do not know what happened, but we will get Ed on in the future. It's unfortunate that cut off there. But if you want to subscribe to the show, check me out at Patreon. Maybe I'll have to use some of that to figure out how the hell to record things properly next time. But check me out at Patreon where you can subscribe and get some extra content. But that is it for Technically Correct. One note, no show tomorrow. So we will talk to you again on Monday.